Hello and welcome to a new episode of Creepypastas on the channel Storytime. I suggest you to follow this channel for daily creepypastas. With that being said, let's dive right into the world of the secret, unknown mystery. Josh was in a hurry to reach the top floor of the skyscraper where his job interview was scheduled. But as he entered the elevator, he felt an eerie sense of discomfort. The elevator doors closed and the lift started to ascend. Suddenly, the elevator jerked to stop and the lights flickered off. Panicked and trapped, Josh hit every button on the control panel, but nothing worked. After several long minutes, the lights flickered back on and the elevator resumed its ascent. Josh felt a wave of relief wash over him as he finally reached his destination. But things were not what they seemed. As Josh walked out of the elevator, he realized that he was in a different world. The sky was red, and the buildings were twisted, gnarled versions of their former selves. Josh was terrified and alone, with no way to go back. As he explored this new reality, he realized that the elevator was a portal to an alternate dimension, a dark and twisted version of the world he knew. As Josh tried to find a way out, he encountered other people who were also trapped in this nightmare. They told him of the horrors they had witnessed and the twisted beings that roamed this world. Josh realized that the elevator was not just a malfunctioning machine, but a gateway to a realm of unspeakable horrors. Josh and the others attempted to find a way to return home, but the elevator was their only hope. As they braved the dangers of this alternate reality, they discovered that the elevator was controlled by a malevolent force, a dark entity that fed on their fear and desperation. Josh and the others fought bravely, but they soon realized that their chances of survival were slim. Will Josh and his companions escape the clutches of this dark and twisted world, or will they be consumed by the horrors that await them? Finn had always been fascinated with board games, so when he heard about a board game club in his neighborhood, he couldn't resist signing up. The first few weeks were great. He made new friends and discovered new games. But as time passed, Finn began to feel that something was off. The other club members were secretive and seemed to hide something. One night, Finn arrived early to the club meeting and stumbled upon a disturb. The members were performing strange rituals around a board game. that he had never seen before. Finn tried to sneak away, but he was caught by the group leader. To his horror, Finn learned that the board game was a tool used by the club to communicate with the dark force. The members of the club were actually a cult, and they sacrificed people to the dark force in exchange for power and knowledge. Finn tried to leave, but the members of the club were relentless in the pursuit of him. They threatened him to sacrifice him to their dark god. Finn was determined to escape, but the club had already marked him as their next sacrifice. As the night wore on, Finn found himself trapped in a terrifying game of cat and mouse with the members of the cult. He realized that the only way to survive was to beat them at their own game. Finn played the twisted board game with all his might and managed to outsmart the members of the cult. In the end, Finn emerged victorious, but he was forever changed by the experience. He knew that the members of the cult were still out there, lurking in the shadows and waiting for their next victim. Finn vowed to never forget the horrors that he had witnessed and to always be on guard against the darkness that lurks in the world. Sophie had been looking forward to summer camp all year. She had always been shy and had trouble to make friends. So the idea of spending a few weeks with other kids her age was exciting. And for the first few days, it was everything she had hoped for. She made friends with a group of girls her age. They spent their days swimming, hiking, and playing games. But on the fourth day, something changed. Sophie noticed that her friends were acting strange. They would whisper to each other when she was around and would sometimes stare at her with cold, unfeeling eyes. Sophie tried to shrug it off and tell herself that she was just being paranoid, but the feeling in her gut wouldn't go away. One night, Sophie was woken up by a strange sound. It was like a low, guttural growl coming from somewhere outside the cabin. She got up to investigate, and as she stopped outside, she saw her friends standing in a circle in the middle of the clearing. They were chanting something in a language she didn't understand. And as Sophie watched in horror, they began to levitate off the ground. Sophie tried to run, but it was too late. The girls were possessed by demonic forces, and they were now determined to sacrifice Sophie to their dark masters. She was trapped, alone in the woods, with no way out. From that day on, Sophie was never the same. She was haunted by the memories of that summer camp and the demonic forces that had possessed her friends. Even years later, she could still hear voices chanting in the dark, ancient languages. She never spoke of it anymore, fearing that they would think she was crazy. But Sophie knew the truth, and it haunted her for the rest of her life.